What's your prefrontal cortex and why does it matter? Your prefrontal cortex is the most evolved part of your brain. Every human has a prefrontal cortex. Unfortunately, no matter how successful you are, how much education you have, you are probably not using the most of your prefrontal cortex. There have been several studies that have shown that the average person uses approximately 10 to 15% of the capacity of your prefrontal cortex. That means that on any given day, you are only accessing 10 to 15% of the best wisdom that you have available to you. Your prefrontal cortex is like your CEO. It looks at things from a short-term goal perspective as well as a long-term goal perspective, and it's also able to calculate probability. What's the probability that if I do this thing or if I behave this way, that I will have this outcome? So your prefrontal cortex is important in planning, decision making. It helps to decide what you pay attention to and helps to prioritize what you remember. So your prefrontal cortex is a huge part of your daily decision making, and we leave way too much of the capacity of our prefrontal cortex on the table. How can I change that? Well, first of all, you have to recognize that your primitive brain systems, they roar. They are distracting, they're powerful, and they will give you really, really strong urges to react, think, or say something a certain way. Your prefrontal cortex whispers. You actually have to stop yourself from reacting and give yourself enough time to process more about the situation, to ask questions, and to respond effectively so that your prefrontal cortex has the time to calculate what actions and behavior are most effective to get me to my outcome, because your primitive brain will have you getting primitive results, but thinking with your prefrontal cortex and being intentional about doing that can help you make decisions that take you to the outcomes that you want and not the ones that you're reactively creating. So use your prefrontal cortex in your decision making.